Welcome to MMAPlay365. I'm Newsome, and I'm here as always to give you the Baze AI, the UFC prediction software recap from last weekend's UFC event at UFC Vegas 58. And the AI, again, I had a bad night, from an official bets perspective with my bets, but the AI once again shining. It's been the case now for like 6-7 weeks, and that's not coincidentally when we tweaked the algorithms a little bit and made some improvements, and it's just been flying ever since. I say the same thing on every single one of these recaps, and it's only a matter of time before I don't need to say it anymore. Baze AI, the UFC prediction software that we've got for these UFC events, it's just phenomenal. And I'm super excited about the future that it's got, because it just keeps on smashing it every single week. But we'll get into some of the fights and some of the predictions that it had this weekend. So solid winners. The first one I want to talk about is Cody Brundage. This was also the Baze AI Dog of the Week as well, which again is $1.99. You get the Underdog of the Week from Baze AI and the Underdog of the Week from myself as well. So make sure you check that out. But Brundage to win, they had it 55%. Now odds implied is -122, and you could have had Brundage at close at around +140. So there was plenty of value there, but there was also more value in the finish, because Brundage inside the distance, the knockout percentage, added with the submission percentage, 47%. Odds implied, that's +113, but you could have had Cody Brundage to win inside the distance from the bookies at +300. So insane value there. And the next solid winner that we're looking at is Nzechukwu versus Karl Roberson. Now, I thought that Karl Roberson was going to win this fight. I thought it was going to be a good fight for him. The AI had other plans. Nzechukwu to win at 56%. Odds implied, that's -127. Now, Nzechukwu, when the line opened, he was around +100. He was sitting at a pick 'em for a while as well, but then he did end up closing at -155. So depending on if you bet Nzechukwu based on the AI predictions, where Nzechukwu was during that time of you betting him, there could have been value, there might not have been value. Like I said, the line moved. It was quite a move of that line. You don't always see the line moving that great on every event. So like I say, depending on where you got it, depends on where the value was, but the fact that Nzechukwu won made it look easy, and then get a third round finish as well. At 56%, it was a solid prediction from Baze AI. Then we're moving on to the main event, and this is another good prediction. Rafael Fiziev to beat Rafael dos Anjos. Again, I picked dos Anjos to win. I think a lot of people did as well, thought it was going to be a problem for Fiziev. But the AI obviously knew that Fiziev was going to be a good fight for dos Anjos here. Fiziev to win 55%. Odds implied, that's -122. Now, Fiziev was -200, so there was no value on that money line. But it was still a solid percentage prediction when a lot of people were going the other way. Baze AI at 55%. Was relatively confident that Fiziev was going to have an edge in this fight, and just an edge is all it's needed in that close fight, and an edge is exactly what Fiziev had. However, if you break it down a little bit more, this is where you can pick up a little bit of value from this fight, and this is where Baze AI is really good. Because again, inside the distance, you had the knockout and the submission together of Fiziev, and you get 33%. Odds implied, that's +203. Bear in mind, Rafael dos Anjos hasn't been finished in quite a long time. So +220, you could have gotten the betting line. +200 roughly is the odds implied. +220 on the betting line. You'd have had that very, very slight value. But that's, if you were really wanting to bet Fiziev, the AI was saying that's where you should be looking, because there's not too much value in the money line. Where the Baze AI was saying it was -122 odds implied, and then the actual odds at the bookies was -200, but then Baze was saying, look, inside the distance, that's where the value is. Small value albeit, but value nonetheless. So those were the solid winners. Now we move on to the surprise winner section, and I think quite a few people might be surprised by this, but we've got Sherman versus Vanderaa. Sherman to win, the Baze AI had it at 52%, so nearly a coin flip, but an edge onto Sherman. But here's where the value is, because odds implied at 52% is -108. You could have had Sherman at a near 2-1 underdog, around +195, +190. So a ton of value there. And then even if you want to step up that and completely wipe the board with value, Sherman to win inside the distance, again, add the knockout, add the submission percentages together, you get 48% for Sherman to win inside the distance, +108 odds implied. You could have had +300 at the books. Of course, he got the finish as well. And Sherman, more often than not, when he does win, he wins by finish. So the AI was absolutely on the ball there, and there was tons of value in that fight. And finally, the final segment, the bad losses segment. I say this all the time. Beizai is absolutely fantastic in my opinion. It's becoming a bit of a beast, a bit of a phenom in itself, in its own right, but it's still gonna have moments where he doesn't pick accurately. And there's gonna be a fight or two. Last weekend there was only 3 fights it got wrong, but one of them I feel was, a bad loss. And that was Saidyokub Kakhramonov versus Ronnie Lawrence. Now Kakhramonov to win, 44%. Odds implied, that's plus 127. You could have had Kakramonov for around plus 110, so there was actually not so much value from the betting line perspective, but Kakramonov absolutely ran through Ronnie Lawrence. Kakramonov looked like he should have been 74%, not 44%. So that's where Beizai was slightly off there, but listen, so was I, and I think a lot of the gamblers, a lot of the bettors that I'm aware of, there was a few that was on the Kakramonov side, but most of them was on the Ronnie Lawrence side. And I think Ronnie Lawrence, it wasn't so much a surprise to me that he lost, it's how he lost. And when I was watching the fight, it looked like a role reversal, because if I hadn't have watched the fight and somebody said to me that one of those fighters completed 10 takedowns in this fight, there was absolutely no way I was saying that would have been Kakramonov. I thought that would have been Lawrence. So it was a role reversal. Lawrence looked like the better striker. Kakramonov looked like was the better wrestler. But pre-tape, you would have said that was the other way around. So it was a bit of a strange fight from that perspective. So Beizai is probably being thrown a little bit by the stats itself because of that as well. But with that being said, Kakramonov should have been a lot higher than 44%. In hindsight, that 2020 vision and all that. But that was the bad loss for this week. That's all for the Beizai recap. Again, 73% overall from this week. From last week at UFC Vegas 58. The 5 weeks before that, we've had, in no particular order, 100%, 82%, 72%, 77%. It's really been a phenomenal ride so far. I can't wait to see what it brings next week. Again, we'll have another Beizai recap next week as well for UFC Long Island, which goes down on Saturday night. I'm Newsome. Thanks for listening. We'll see you again next week.